Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today I have a video courtesy of SirBlemmington, and it's in the Tier 6 American cruiser, the Cleveland. Now, this was one of the first ships I really fell in love with in the game. It was a blast to drive. The original characteristics of the shell were definitely made it overpowered in closed beta, and while it's been hit a bit with the nerf pad, it's still a very solid ship and does a few things particularly well. So when you find yourself in a game, particularly aircraft carriers, lots of destroyers, things are going to go well for you if you play your cards right. And you can also hear this particular Cleveland has a certain cook at the helm, or in the captain's chair, and the form of Steven Seagal, which honestly, the Cleveland's a good candidate because Seagal's unique attributes where he gets slightly quicker turret traverse and faster shell switching make him ideal for the slow turret traverse of the Cleveland. Though, watching these turrets traverse, I'm not 100% sure that SirBlemmington has actually given this captain that skill, because I would expect the turrets to then keep up with the ship's rate of turn, and they really don't. But what SirBlemmington is definitely doing is showing how effective this ship still is at lighting things on fire. 4 triple-barreled turrets, that's 12 shells of HE per volley, and that Leander is burning. Now, AP here definitely could probably chip away at the health a little faster, but it doesn't really matter. The team picked on that Leander, and the Leander is gone. Already up 1-0, and, well, it's just the start. So on Trident, I kind of have 2 different strategies. If I spawn over on the right, I go to the right. I do enjoy open water play, but kind of like Neighbors, I love this Trident part of the map, and really any vessel. This little fork here, you can use the islands to control your engagement, and that's why I like it. And personally, I would have stayed over there, used the islands, lobbed shells over them, worked on that Kirov, New Mexico and everything, but it seems SirBlemmington's kind of playing a different strategy, and that's just slowly drive by the entire enemy team, trying to light them on fire. And, well, it's been working pretty well so far. Fuso looks like he's about to get hit, and there's another fire. And it looks like an ally lit one as well, and those may be staying. I don't know if the Fuso's just letting them burn right now, or if they've already used damage control, but you can really rack up damage if you get some fires to stick. And if your strategy is to just light everything on fire, swapping targets fairly regularly after you get 1 or 2 permanently burning on an enemy ship is a good strategy, because it's going to spread your damage out more. Now, maybe it's not the best strategy to win because, well, you can end up in a situation where the enemy team has a lot of low health ships but no dead ships. But early in the game, they've got the 1 kill advantage. Definitely not risking anything by kind of switching things up and just trying to chip away at a couple ships. And, you know, if you get another vessel under low health early on, you can make them very timid for the rest of the game and more or less ineffective. You will, however, notice here the Cleveland is kind of excuse me. This cold just doesn't seem to be going away. The Cleveland's rearing kind of the ugly head that has been its nerf, and that's the shell flight time. These shells just hang. And I find myself having to lead far more than any other cruiser, even ones with similar shell velocities, and that's what really kind of confuses me. Fortunately, I drive a lot of destroyers, so I am really used to that kind of lofty shell travel, and, well, it seems SirBlemmington is as well not able to hit that destroyer, but the DD is like 10k away, and those low-profile Japanese hulls can be tricky to connect with. So there's definitely a bit of a lull in the battle. Over at the Trident Fork, I think things are much more heated. You can see a New Mexico is kind of charging it alone, facing a Dunkirk and a pair of destroyers that inevitably are going to charge around the corner and torp them. And there's nothing really in range over on this side of the map that's spotted. That Cleveland's right on the outside of the range, but at 14 kilometers, it's going to be hard to hit if it's maneuvering at all, but it does look to be driving a pretty straight line, so looks like luck may be on Fleming's side, though those all kind of just carried a little long, and that's when a pair of destroyers gets spotted in close. They were in the smoke, and, well, they decided to drive out under 5 kilometers from a Cleveland, and that's just a plain old mistake. Because as I said at the start of this, there's still a couple things the Cleveland does incredibly well, and one of them is just nomming down on destroyers. The rate of fire and just the sheer number of shells that you can shoot out really chip away at the health quickly. And there goes the Minikaze. But there's another Minikaze, so another ship to kill. And you can see these turrets do seem just a little bit slow. Personally, if you're not using the skill SirBlemming, I would strongly consider putting in the increased turret traverse, particularly if you're using Steven Seagal in this vessel, because it is going to help you track ships so much better. But that's 2 DDs down and 36,000 damage so far.
Our team's taken the lead.
They've got a really good kind of stranglehold on this game so far. Enemy team has no destroyers left. They've lost a pair of cruisers, and sure, they've got a lot of battleships, but you know, losing battleships early on isn't going to really upset the swing of a game. You've got to get the destroyers and the cruisers first. And that's actually something a lot of battleship drivers don't seem to always grasp, is sure, the enemy battleship presents that threat of the Citadel. But if it's another enemy battleship, you can go nose in, angle your armor, you can play smart. It's the cruisers and destroyers that chip away at your health, light the fires, throw torpedoes at you, that are really going to cost you late game. You know, you don't see a huge number of games where it's, you know, 1 battleship versus 4 at the end of the game where the battleship wins. And it's simply because the guns don't fire fast enough to get rid of a bunch of low health targets. So SirBlemming's team has definitely done a good job of kind of removing most of those support ships that the battleships rely on to keep other cruisers, keep other destroyers at bay, and as a result, you see it right here, this Congo is just evaporating. Sure, it's taking hits from battleships, but it's on fire. There's a lot of other shells flying at them from kind of all directions. That friendly Cleveland sniper tank is definitely hitting them. And the fire that SirBlemming lit, or SirBlemmington Smith? Sorry, first time I've seen the full name because it's chopped off in team. Got the kill. So 51,000 damage in, 3 kills, and, well, things aren't looking as good. They've lost their pair of destroyers and the battleship that were over on this far flank, and that kind of stinks, but in that time they've gotten a couple enemy battleships and things are still looking good for them. And the score really kind of tells you what's going on. They're up at almost double the enemy's score. There is that Bayern there kind of chasing this Cleveland, and this is where you love to have a destroyer, because it could just position himself here, wait for that Bayern to drive through the Narrows and torp him, or conversely just charge into the Narrows and put torps into his hull from, you know, throwing distance. But the Bayern does the smart thing, gets himself turned away, and this Cleveland up here is in an awkward spot. There's an enemy battleship up there, there's this Bayern, not a lot can support him. And those are the things you have to be careful about when you are driving a cruiser, is you always want to have support. You don't want to be a ship off alone, because while you can keep air threats away, if you get 1 or 2 battleships firing at you, there's no real way to kind of effectively dodge and keep yourself safe from both of them. You're going to be showing a broadside to someone. And that's exactly what's happening to that Cleveland. He's tried to turn away. SirBlemmington Smith is trying to lob shells over the island, and it actually worked, connecting 726 damage. And that is the big advantage to these high loft shells, is you can just throw them over pretty much anything, and they're gonna clear. And it means, just like with the Atlanta and now the British ships, that things aren't necessarily safe hiding on the other side of the object if the captain on the other end of the guns knows what he's doing and knows how to aim over an island. And if you're having problems shooting over an island, fire a volley and just ride it in, see where the shells land and adjust. And you do that enough, eventually you'll really pick up how to lead targets that are sitting, that you can't see the direction they're going necessarily. And once again, we see what happens to battleships when they don't have cruiser supports and when a bunch of cruisers are able to pick on them. Yeah, there's a pair of battleships off to the east helping Flemington shoot at this Bayern, but the Bayerns are just slowly evaporating from just kind of that nitpicky death by 1,000 cut cruiser fire. And Flemington's certainly racking up some damage, up to 68,000, and you can see him switching back and forth between the targets, making sure both just stay on fire, and also trying to pick on the one on lower health to get rid of a ship. And my god, there's what happens when you sit side on long enough to a couple battleships. You do eventually pay the price, like he did there. A big hit, but that Bayern's going to be dead before it can do anything. And surprisingly, the Bayern isn't shooting at him. Once again, a battleship focused on trying to kill another battleship. And come on, guys. It's, you know, it's like driving in a straight line forever when you're detected. You know there's a destroyer there and you eat torpedoes. Take out the targets that are more maneuverable, faster than you, that are really going to stack that damage up on you. Then focus on the big slow guys. And in team battles, that's definitely how we run it. Like, priority number one is enemy destroyers. If a destroyer is spotted, it doesn't matter what ship you are, you're shooting at. Next on the hit list is any enemy cruisers with radar, or just enemy cruisers in general. And then finally is battleships. They're the last thing we care about, because a destroyer against a battleship, the destroyer is going to win if he's a smart captain. The battleship can't do anything. It's just going to be too many torpedoes, and eventually the destroyer is going to get lucky and put a torpedo in, and the destroyer can always just stay undetected. So it's pretty much down to this New Mexico and an enemy cruiser way off on the flank. Flemington's in full astern, just trying to keep his distance, and still just lighting fire after fire. It's up to 14 now. New Mexico puts the single fire out, so you can guarantee a volley or two from now, there's just going to be another fire. And really this one's over, and oddly enough, Flemington switches to AP. It's a odd decision. Personally, it's one of the few cruisers that I just don't use the AP in, and it's because even at this 10-kilometer range, the shells aren't coming in steep enough to penetrate, but they're not flat enough to penetrate. Like if I was in a Nuremberg, sure, I'd shoot AP, but not in a Cleveland, and it kind of just makes those AP shells awkward unless you're super close. So HE it is for me most of the time. And HE has served Flemington very well. 14 fires, 79,000 damage so far, 4 kills, and this game's really over. There's the enemy carrier up in the corner. It's going to get killed eventually. So let's pop into the post-battle. The Cleveland has always been a favorite of mine, and SirBlemmington really showed off why. 210,000 credits, 3,200 experience, 79,000 damage, 179 shells, 4 kills, 14 fires, and really just a solid game. And you saw what the Cleveland's capable of when you hold off, you keep your guns firing. Too many guys, I think, charge on in early, lose all their hit points, and get finished off before they have a chance to start stacking up the damage. And they end up just saying, oh, the Cleveland sucks now because it's been nerfed. But really it hasn't. If you play it right and you learn the trajectory of the shells, she's just as good as she was way back in closed beta. And top of the team should come as no real surprise here. And, you know, you look at the rest of the team, the couple ships that did really well as well, and that's why they won. Those pair of enemy Bayerns definitely didn't help the enemy team at all, though, just eating all that HE. And when you look at it, you know, 15,000 to the one, and then a slew of damage to other vessels. And sure, SirBlemmington didn't have any citadels or like 20,000 damage shots that the battleships have, but he hit enough targets and just collectively did enough damage to have that impact on the team and wiped out a couple ships before they had another chance to fire. And at the end of the day, all this means he walked away with 156,000 credits and 3,200 XP, a little extra for the captain. I'm assuming he was running some of the XP flags, and for a non-premium account to walk away with 156,000 credits is a very well played game. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I enjoyed watching it. As always, if you did enjoy it, consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel. I'm nearly at 500 subscribers, and tomorrow I'm going to be announcing my giveaway for that, because I suspect before Christmas here we're going to be at that mark, and I'm going to figure out something special to give, hopefully more than just one or two of you, but I need to figure it out and kind of see what I have money for, really. If you have a video of your own you'd like to submit to the channel, Qckslvrslash@gmail.com. I'll gladly watch it, commentate it, throw it up here for everyone to see, and I personally just enjoy watching the videos I get. As always though, I am Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.